everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show. And we have a special edition of the Maurice Brown Show today, and it is called The Lack of Diversity in Faith-Based Films. And we have four very talented actors and directors in the house this evening. And we are going to start out in our introduction. We're going to talk about a lady that was started out as the wacky receptionist Taylor on the ABC series New Attitude, the ultra nerd Adrian on Boston Common, and as Denise Pendergrass, the feisty line producer on the debut season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. She was a member of the Groundlings Sunday Company, and has toured with her award-winning one-woman comedy inspirational show, The VO5 Experience. She also performs regularly as the elderly Etta Mae Mumfries, someone that you've got to check out one of these days. Hilarious, known as the Black Forrest Gump. And she's also written a few short films, a devotional book, and several stage plays. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very talented Karen Bankhead. Hello, Karen. How are you?
Hey, Maurice. Thank you. That is the intro I need to say for the future. Thank you.
So what's been going on, Karen, during this pandemic? What have you been up to?
You know, I've been trying to make banana bread that's decent, and taking care of my dog, and just staying alive. And just Zooming a lot, doing a lot of Zoom shows, which I really like, and some virtual auditions and things like that, which are actually kind of fun. So just appreciating the good things and the everyday things, and writing a little bit, working on one project that's kind of been all these months. It's like a long process of marinating. So that's a good thing.
Amen. I totally understand. And also on the Maurice Brown Show today, an actress and director known for Summer of '67, Sorry, Why Should I Believe in God, Miracle on Highway 34, which is a great Christmas movie. I had a chance to see that this past Christmas. She was awesome in that film, along with Josh Murray. She also appeared in Discarded Things and the soon-to-be-released Son of the South, as she plays Rosa Parks. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very talented Sharonne Lanier. Sharonne, how are you?
Thank you. I'm great. It's Sharonne, by the way.
Got it. Thank you, Sharonne Lanier. Sharonne, I tell you, you are really awesome. I've seen you in a couple of films, but I really enjoyed the film Miracle on Highway 34. That was done pretty much in one location, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We shot that in Colorado, pretty much all in the diner. Like, that's it. Like, what'd you say? Yeah. Did I miss something?
34. That was done pretty much in I think that's reverb. That's reverb. That's my voice and reverberation there. But no, that was really, and also you were in Discarded Things, which leads me into my next introduction. And I tell you what, this is an actress. This lady's like off the hook. Singer, songwriter, born and raised in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. She has a long list of stage, TV, and film credits to her name, and recently added producer to her list of credits. She co-wrote and produced her first feature film, Discarded Things, the film I was just mentioning, in which Sharonne appeared in, through her new film production company, Earth Mother Entertainment. She has a TV show, a new stage project, and 3 other film projects on deck. Karen received rave reviews for her portrayal of the 80-year-old prayer warrior, Miss Clara, in the very popular and well-known faith-based film War Room. She received a Dove Award and a Movie Guide Grace Award for her performance in this film. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very, very talented Karen Abercrombie. Hello, Karen. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Karen, what's been going on? What's been happening?
Just putting out some fires, trying to stay creative and productive during this time. writing and a whole lot of praying and adjusting.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a time when we really have to be in prayer. God has taken us through some interesting valleys, but he's got something special for his people. There's no question about that. There's no doubt about it. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have a director and writer and actor known for the film Love Different in 2016, a film that I had the pleasure of appearing in, and Catastasis, aka Crisis Call, in 2015. He is the founder of the award-winning faith-based production company Sunset Friday Entertainment, where he writes, produces, and directs feature films with an intent to creatively share positive messages. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, please welcome the very talented Anthony Hackett. What's up, Anthony? How are you, buddy?
Really?
Hey, I want to say, first of all, Maurice, I appreciate that intro, man. You like the king of intros, man. You made all of us sound like who we are. So glory to God for what you do. And man, I'm honored to be here with these ladies, man. I mean, they're all fantastic women of God. I've seen their work, some of it, and I'm just really impressed to have the opportunity to be here with all you guys. So thanks for letting me be here, man.
Well, listen, I thank all of you for being here. And let me just say, every one of you deserved at the very least that kind of introduction, because you guys are wonderful artists. You're great at what you do, and more people need to know who you are. And we need to see more of you guys on screen, which is part of the reason that we're here today to talk about the lack of diversity in faith-based film. We have so many talented artists out there, people of color that are really not really known. A lot of people don't know about them, and it would be great if their visibility could be increased. And so that's kind of why we're here today. I thank you guys for agreeing to appear on the show. Let me start out with you, Karen Abercrombie. Do you think that the kinds of roles that people of color are offered are limited?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Neighbor, best friend for the first few minutes. Yes. It's a lot like what takes place out in the world.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely, without a doubt. And many times the portrayal, if there is some depth into the story, it is negative. That continuous perpetuation of the Black drug thief struggle kind of picture that has been shown, or yes.
And you know, guys, one of the main reasons that I'm doing part 2 of lack of faith and diversity, lack of diversity of faith-based films, is because of the actor Skeeta Jenkins. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Skeeta. He's a really good actor, a good friend of mine. And we were talking after a show one day, and we just got on this subject. And it was completely random as we were conversating after the show. And he kind of dove into it and said, Maurice, I really think that's an issue. And that's not a slight to any of our Caucasian brethren. I just don't think we are getting the opportunities that we should be in faith-based films. And I thought about it. I'm like, it's actually true. I mean, when you look at the landscape of faith-based films, outside of War Room, which is not a Black film, but it does feature on a Black family, which is really good. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the landscape of faith-based filmmaking, you do not see a lot of people of color. And it shouldn't be the same as it is in the secular world, but it really is the same. And that's really an issue when you think about the body of Christ. So Skeeta and I got on that, and I said, oh man, dude, we need to do a show about this. And I had Anthony, Skeeta, Cameron Arnett, Karen was also on that show, and Michael Patterson, and we got into it, and we had a great convo. And Anthony Hackett, he came up with the idea. He said, "Look, Maurice, I think we should do another one. This time, let's feature actresses, and we'll have a male." And I picked Anthony, of course, to be a part of this and get an African American female perspective on this subject. We were going to have Felicia Frazier on, Christian comedian, and unfortunately, she ended up coming down with pneumonia. Thank God she's okay. So we will definitely keep her lifted up. But just to piggyback on what you just said, Karen, about the types of roles that African Americans do tend to get, I'm going to pose this question to you, Sharonne. Do you think that there's a stereotypical issue for people of color when they do get roles in films, that there's this particular kind of role only that they tend to get? In other words, are we put in a box?
Absolutely. Not across the board. So I won't say that for, every production company, but yes. It's funny too, because I went back and looked up some statistics for 2019. Okay. I don't know what 2020 is, but America, the racial population, and I feel like American television film should depict American race, right? Okay.
Sure.
So in 2019, we're about 60% white, 18% Hispanic, 13% Black, 5% Asian, 2% or 1% Native American, something like that. Okay. So when I look at faith-based films, which I watch a lot of because that's my passion.
Yes.
I would say that we do see at least 13% Black. I don't know that we see 18% Hispanic, so I think we need to work on that. I don't know that we see 5% Native American. We need to work on that. Native American, we need to work on that as well. But we're in there. But when you look at the roles that we have in the faith-based market in general, is not very respectable. I mean, some roles are. I'm not saying all. So just so anybody you said that. I'm just saying, just as a whole. As a matter of fact, you can sit down and go through Pure Flix. Just scroll through, because I've done it. I've scrolled through like all the titles, and you hardly see any minorities in those lead roles. And when you watch a movie, just look at the minorities and just look at what they're playing in general. We can do better.
Great point, Sharonne. And let me switch gears over to Karen real quick, who's done a lot of secular stuff. A God-fearing Christian woman who's done a lot of secular work. And so when you look at the faith-based world, Karen, I mean, we're pretty much looking at the same thing when it comes to people of color being visible in film? Would you not agree?
I think so to some extent. I mean, I have to say, it's getting better. There's a lot of that are producing things and making our own way, which is really encouraging. And there's some really interesting stories. I think the frustration, like Sharonne was saying and Karen was saying, we're so multidimensional, and the idea that we're always, the friend, who's on the side, or just they'll throw in a teacher or a nurse or whatever. And there's so many. I was working on a project that I'm working on, and it was like this ability to do like slapstick humor, which we all, I love to do. And it's very rare, it's rare that we get to be that really funny lady without it being, I don't know what, but so I think, and I think it's equal. Everybody else on this panel is so much more experienced with the faith-based community. I would love to do faith-based movies. I will say that my feeling about my faith as an actor, as much as I like everybody, we want to glorify God in our work.
Yes.
But we also have, there's some worldly things that we're well equipped to do. I was really inspired on Cicely Tyson's passing, and she didn't talk a lot about her faith. But then when you read about how she felt about her work and her art, you just see it was very motivated by her serving God and doing what she felt like she was meant to do. So I think we all, it's a pull. I'm sure everybody has that feeling like, okay, we want to, do not just, we don't want to be in a pocket, but I definitely think in the faith-based, there's so many stories I love that The War Room was a really great example of a movie that had an African American family but it wasn't like all about, oh, we're Black, so we're doing all this stuff. It was like this really just a beautiful story. So that's one great example right there. But there's so much room for us to do so much more. And there's so many stories.
Strangely enough, Karen, I feel like there's more. I think we do better in the secular market for leading roles for African Americans than we do in the faith-based market.
Wow.
I feel like that.
I would love to do like a faith-based movie, and I just haven't had the opportunity. And I think you're right. I agree. And there, like, what was it? The Clark Sisters movie that came out. There's so many stories. There's church story, not just church. I mean, I guess I don't know if you guys feel that way. I always feel like, do we just have to stick with the church stories, or what does that mean? I'm not sure. Right. But I think there is room for more.
I love and that put a pin in that last thought that you just expressed, because I want to touch on that a little bit later on in the show. I want to swing this over to my man Anthony Hackett and ask a tough question. Actually, Anthony, this may not be a tough question; it might be pretty obvious, but I still would love to hear your response to it. Why is there a lack of roles for a leading role for people of color?
So I think there's a lot of reasons actually, but there's some bigger ones than others.
Yeah,
I would definitely say. So first of all, I've been calling you Sharon, so it's Sharonne.
I know.
How's it go? Pronounce it for me.
Oh, Sharonne.
Sharonne. Okay, I want to make sure I get it right. Sharonne. Yeah. Sharonne's right, but I would just dilute it a little bit as far as it's getting better, because historically, film, Black people didn't have access to it, right?
Right.
Like, historically, when it came to making movies, it was white people who were able to go to film school.
Right.
White people who were able to afford that. It was white people who were getting those opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. Now, as technology has improved, as access to filmmaking has become more broad, we as African Americans and others, we now have more access to the capability of being able to make films. So you're now seeing more African American filmmakers, just simply because we now are being inserted with opportunity that we didn't have previously historically.
Right.
So with that being said, typically your African American filmmakers are the ones who will create a film that will feature African American people. Historically, white people don't typically do that. Why? A lot of it has to do with the writing. Obviously, when you have a writer, you're typically writing for what you know. So, right. If you're a white person, you'll write for a white family. You just write what you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that there's not as many African American writers, producers, filmmakers, basically people empowered to be able to position African Americans to have leading roles. So the history of this business does not favor Black people, and it is changing. It's changing really due to the opportunities that we're having available to us now. But it's just simply the fact that we're behind. I mean, just like everything else. I mean, it is what it is. Like in our country, we're behind. We're behind in everything. So filmmaking is no different. Yeah. And with that being said, though, God, I believe, especially with our businesses, opening this opportunity for us to be able to have the same access as white people, the same things. The only thing that really still hinders us as African American filmmakers and actors is, I see you, Karen. I see the change that's down the field. I would even take it a step further. I would say the one thing I think is just a step a little bit further than the money is the opportunity of presentation and distribution. Because we may have the money to make a movie and we may make a great movie. If can't nobody see it, does no good. And so we don't necessarily, if my film comes on the desk of somebody and another film of another race comes on the desk, similar, I may not have that same opportunity. Also, historically, Black films just don't sell as well as white films. Why? Because someone brought up the point that there's 60% white people in our country. So films that do not feature black families tend to sell better than films that feature black families. So that's why you see it often. That's why I had so much respect for the Kendrick brothers dropping that dime piece of War Room to the world and saying, look, we some white dudes, we love God. This is we featuring black. They went to Hollywood with a black feature. That was just totally, I got so much respect for that. So hopefully we have more people in power that are not black that present those same opportunities to include everybody.
And just to piggyback off of that with the Kendrick brothers, they were asked, why a black cast? About,
wow, that's interesting.
Power. Oh, yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
That is very interesting, Karen. I never would have figured that.
And what did they respond? I'm imagining why not, but what did they respond?
Basically that, and the Lord was leading them this way. So they were going to follow the Lord and not popular opinion or the pressure that individuals were trying to massage into the situation.
Yeah. I tell you right now, Cameron Arnett was actually on our first show on this subject, and he was speaking very highly of the Kendrick brothers and the fact that they're all about however the Lord leads.
Yes.
And that's really what needs to happen here. In 2016, I had the privilege of being in the film Love Different, directed by my good friend Anthony Hackett here, which was an excellent film. It's a very good film. Of course, I was in it. I have to say that. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. It was a great film, and it's a great comedy. Actually, it's a very comical film with a serious issue tucked in the very middle of the film about God. And rather than go on about that, because I don't want to give anything away, I do want to direct a question to you, Anthony, because what you were focusing on, in large part, the differences between blacks and whites and the false perceptions of one another. I'm interested to know what was your motivation in kind of your mindset in bringing that out.
Got you. So it definitely, I would say it's not my motivation per se. It was just the following of God. Yeah. What God puts on your heart, you do. So as a writer, I wrote what he said. As a director, I directed what he wanted. So I would say the reason why God put that on my heart, though, was really for an opportunity to bring out the message that love. People, our country is different, especially now. Like we're different. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Black people, we different than white people. White people different than Hispanic. Blah 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 blah. Right. But that doesn't mean that we can't love one another. The only thing is that what we have what we forget a lot of times is that because everyone is different, we have to love people differently. And that's the whole rest of the film. God, people, when you look at God, God loves all of us, right? He loves all of us equally, but he loves all of us differently. Yes. For me, he says, Anthony needs a little bit more discipline because his behind, he be acting up, he be saying stupid stuff. So I need to set him aside. I need to love him this way, right? And then he looked at Karen, both the Karens. He's like, this Karen, she got a little lip. Let me go ahead and love her this way. And then this Karen, he's like, this Karen, she be farting a lot. Whatever the case is. The point is that why you look. Wait, hold on, Karen, Bankhead. Why you looking around like I was talking about you? I'm Karen. All right. Point I'm making is that we're all different people, and although we're different because of cultural experiences, because of race and how we grew up, that doesn't mean that we don't love each other. We just have to find out how to love each other. And in our country, we have a group of people that's not making an attempt to try to love other people. There's no way to attempt, and that's the problem. So that's what put on my heart, Maurice, to do that film.
Beautiful.
And it's interesting when you say loving people different. I worked with emotionally disturbed teenagers for 6 years in Alexandria, Virginia, And, you know, a lot of those kids are discarded. People have given up on them. They've got ADD, ADHD, what have you. And I found that a lot of them are quite brilliant. But you have to love on them and teach them a different way. And you get so much more out of them when you approach it from a different perspective. I went into a classroom one day as a sub. Matter of fact, I kept coming back. They decided to hire me permanently because no one would ever come back. So I kept taking the job. So, but the first day I walked in there, I mean, you know, it was like a zoo in there. Kids throwing airplanes, so forth. And I said, "All right, everybody have a seat." And of course, I may as well have been talking to the wall. And so finally, one of the kids just said, "We ain't doing nothing." And it was a great big kid, right? And then all the kids took the desk and the chairs, they moved them to the corner to give him room. I went, "Oh boy, okay, here we go." This kid and I are nose to nose, and I tell you right now, and it was only God. For some reason, he and I broke out into this big smile at the exact same moment. And we became best friends for the entire year. And the reason I share that story is my mindset in dealing with, you know, those type of children was completely different. I was like, well, I'm not going to expect them to do everything I say if I talk down to them. Or if I try to talk to them like the mainstream kids. Let me put it that way. It's not going to work the same way. So it was a different approach. And, you know, I got a lot of mileage out of that. Matter of fact, my wife and I used to take them to church on Sundays from time to time. But that's just to piggyback on what you said, Anthony, about, you know, everybody is different. And you've got to have a certain approach to figure out, okay, how do I deal with this individual? Now, the next question that I want to ask you guys, when it comes to a producer or a writer, and we talked about this a little bit the last time, Anthony, but do you think it's important? This is an open question for any of you to jump in. Do you think it's important for a Black producer or a Black writer to tackle subjects that are born out of the African American community? Or does it matter?
Crickets.
Yeah, this is crickets. So, you know, and the reason I bring that up is because, you know, that was something that we kind of got into on the previous show, and there was a sharp disagreement. There was no arguing, but there was completely two different mindsets on the subject. And do you think that, you know, a situation, a storyline that's out of the Black community, because you have a lot of white producers and writers speaking on, you know, subjects that arise out of those communities a lot of times. But you got a lot of Black producers and writers out there that are not getting their shots and opportunities. And you would definitely think that they would have an opportunity or should get an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that not only African Americans needing to tell about African Americans, but I mean, same thing, Hispanics, Native Americans, all the way across the board, diversity. I think that no one can tell your story like you can tell your story. So yeah. we know what we sit in, we know what we breathe, and somebody else, I mean, let me rephrase that. Somebody else can tell the story, but will they tell it, you know, with the authenticity? So yes, I think it is important. But I don't think that that's the only thing. Like, we don't need to only write about, you know, our history. You know, we can write about, you know, several other things. But yes.
I know personally myself, I'm trying to help the gang culture out a lot. I told my kids, they're 24, 22, and 19. I told them all the time when they were growing up, look, let me tell you guys something right now. You're not thugs. Okay? Just understand that. You have a dad who's a Black man that talks like Tom Hanks. Not going to work out too well at the cookout. Just forget about it. But anyway, guys. So I you know what? Here's the real reason I asked that question, and I'd love to hear your. This is slightly off topic, but I want to throw it out just to get your response. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there are, and I'll give you an example. Judas and the Black Messiah. The lead role of that film is played by Daniel Kaluuya, I think. I'm not sure. He was also in Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's portraying Huey Newton. Okay. Now Daniel is, I want to say, from South Africa. But there's an underlying issue in Hollywood where people of color from abroad are getting roles that are African-American portrayals. Could be a kid from the ghetto, could be whatever, just an African-American role being played by people of color from abroad. And so what I'm saying is a lot of I mean quality African-American actors and actresses are getting overlooked for that reason in a lot of cases. And it's kind of a down low issue in Hollywood. It's not really talked about that much, but I'd like to get your response to that issue. Or do you think it's an issue?
Do we think what's an issue? The like outside of the country actors, or are we talking about black?
No, another kind of racism against African Americans, in that we have so many quality African American actors and actresses that are now being pushed aside for people of color from abroad. And we're talking about, roles that, we could easily relate to, as Americans, but yet we're being pushed aside or overlooked.
Well, so I'll just say a quick thing to that. Real quick correction, Maurice. He's the guy in the movie of Judas. He's playing the role of a guy named Fred Hampton, not Huey Newton.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Okay, my bad. Thank you.
But it was actually a good movie.
Yeah,
interesting movie. So with that being said, with regard to the British actors and other actors, playing African American roles.
Right.
I mean, for me, I ain't got no problem. I mean, if they good at it, if they good, and let the dude play the role.
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's obviously qualified actors, but I'm not personally the one. I mean, I don't think that there's a takeover of all Hollywood films that are now stealing roles and giving them to people outside of African Americans. I think there's just some movies who are casting some and some who aren't. So I personally don't feel it as a big of an issue as some may. That's just me personally. As long as the role turns out good, it's about the art and it's about the film. It's about the message of the film. So if that comes together through someone from another country, so be it. However, with that being said, there definitely is something to say about roles that because there aren't many African American roles, whether male or female, period, in Hollywood, then the very few that we do have, for them to be given to people who are not African American, I very, very much can sympathize with people who would have a problem with that, just because there aren't very many of them. But not me personally have too much of a problem with it.
Cool. I just kind of wanted to throw it out just for your consideration, because I have recently learned that there's somewhat of an issue. There's talk going on on that particular subject, and I didn't know if you guys had any commentary or comeback on it. I find it very interesting. I didn't know that it was a big deal. I have noticed in a couple of films, though, where they're come to find out later, so, oh, that guy's not even from here. He's from England, or he's from Germany, or what have you. Like Idris Elba is another great example. I didn't even know Idris Elba was from England. I had no idea. And he plays the role so well, of someone from this country. But I don't know. Did any of you ladies want to respond to that?
Well, me personally, anytime that I can see black skin and talent in front of the camera, it's a plus.
Yeah.
And especially with Hollywood, because if they didn't think it was bankable, they wouldn't back it. And so that they're putting some money, some funding behind films where you do have Black leads, be they African American or African England or wherever they're from. That is definitely a positive. Now, as far as the other side of the coin, say, I know that there was a lot of talk with Cynthia Erivo when she played Harriet.
Yeah.
I too, being a Black actress, I do wish there were more projects for us across the board.
Right.
But then again, too, we have a lot of wonderful writers here that are African American, and I say, let us rise up and write and produce pieces for us to work. And then on the other hand, I know that the finding funding and things like that are very important, because investors want to make sure, okay, well, what kind of distribution do you have? So it's some, some mountains that we can get over, but we must get over. And I just would encourage the writers to continue to write so that there is more for us to do. Actors, producers, directors, all across the board. And we can,
Yes.
there's a lot that we can do.
I totally agree, Karen. And I want to see you in more projects. Karen, I tell you right now, I mean, War Room speaks for itself. What you tore that one up. Everybody knows that. But I watched Discarded Things with you and Sharonne, and I'll tell you, you tore that one up. I mean, you tore that one. You are really quite an artist, Karen, and I would love to see you doing more things. Your time's coming. I think something's getting ready to blow up in the industry when it comes to the subject we're discussing. I think, and then in Miracle on Highway 34, Sharonne, there was an interesting development in that film where you have you had an African American woman who ends up falling in love with a white guy. And I really didn't see that come. Am I giving away too much? I don't.
I mean, it's been out.
Okay. But anyway, so no, I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. What was the mindset in that? Who produced that film?
So that was Nathan Clarkson Creations, and so that's one of those ones where I don't think he had a particular color in mind for the lead. So I think it was just open game. So I just kind of stepped into that. So I don't know that it was going to be that, black and white relationship.
Yeah.
But because I was, offered the role, that's what it was. And so that's a prime example of, not being stuck in a box. And actually, I mean, I've been blessed to be a part of actually several of those in the faith-based industry. But like I said, it's few. I feel like there's more opportunities in the secular world to take a more meaningful role than it is in the faith-based world. And I hate saying that, but I mean, that's just...
No, you could have been at 100, Sharonne. Don't be ashamed of that. That's just
kind of the reality. Yeah.
Listen, that is an unfortunate reality. And in the faith-based world, that should not be. There's no way.
And I will say this too, because there's a danger too of a certain mindset we can take. Because and I'll just tell a brief story, because I'm kind of used to that or understand that. I'll say there was a casting called, I'll just say the name of the film. It's called Pull from Darkness. We're getting ready to go into production next week. And I saw the breakdowns, and there were, out of the whole thing, there were like 2 roles that I could actually audition for, but both of the roles were Dutch. And I was like, are they going to, there's no black people that they're going to hire for a Dutch. I mean, they're black Dutch people, but I'm like, in their minds, they're probably just, whatever, really looking for white.
Right, sure.
That was my mindset. So I was like, I'm just going to audition for this smaller role. I had other reasons. I was actually really busy at the time as well. So it was just like, I don't feel like investing all this energy into it, and they're probably not really going to care in the first place. So my agent was like, you should go for the bigger role too. And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't, I'm good. I'll go for the smaller role. So I submitted the smaller role, and the production actually came back to me and said, can you audition for the bigger role? And I ended up booking it. But that's to say, see, like our mindsets too can limit us by what we see. So all that to say, like what we see, it doesn't matter. Just go with what we know to be right, or what we feel in our hearts as far as like pushing forth throughout the industry. Just push. I don't care what we see. Just go for it. And by the way, that was George Johnson from Pull from Darkness. He's an Emmy Award winner. So forever grateful.
Now, that's a great point. Because a lot of times we can hinder ourselves because we don't feel that they would ever consider us for a particular role, and we don't audition for it, or we'll just kick it out of our mind, And I think that, and this is unfortunately another issue. I think I can't speak for everybody, but my personal feeling is when it comes to a lead role, I think a lot of African-American men and women just go, well, that's not for me. But they don't want that. Not even going to think about auditioning for that role because, they want Tom Cruise. You see what I'm saying? So we just immediately kick it out. I'm not gonna, try for that particular role. And therefore you hinder yourself when you never know. You can pull off the unthinkable. You got to dive in there and give it, no matter what it's called for. Believe in yourself. Hey, I can do this role. Step up. And the story you just shared, that's a great example, of how we can hurt ourselves.
Yes, it is. And congratulations, baby.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Miracle on Highway 34, was that a faith-based film?
Faith elements.
What is this?
Okay, so was it?
This say yes or no. This say yes or no. It's either faith or not. If it's not,
then yes.
Okay. All right, there we go.
Thank you, sir. Right. Appreciate that.
So it is not a faith-based film. Well, now,
yes. The reason why I said that is because it doesn't it doesn't focus per se on let
me ask you this, Maurice, if you don't mind. And this is this is a question literally for all three of you, and even you, Maurice. Mm-hmm. What is your definition of a faith-based film? Like, what makes it faith-based?
Whoa, I love that question. I love that question. I honestly think, Anthony, a faith-based film can't really be anything. I mean, other than you calling it that. Hey, this is a faith-based film, but I mean, I do believe, what is your motivation in the film? I mean, is this about God? Are we going God's down the quote unquote God road here or not? And I think when you watch a film, where they're going. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen Vindication. I'll give you a good example. The crime series Vindication that's on PureFlix. Any of you guys ever seen that show?
I haven't.
Yes, it's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. Now, if you watch that show, you think you're watching initially an NCIS or Blue Bloods or Law and Order. But then as you watch it more, you start to understand that they're going towards Christ. Like, they are clearly going towards Christ, but it's not obvious. You have to get invested into the program before you realize, oh, wow, okay, that's where they're going. So that's kind of a roundabout way to answer or respond to your question. Anthony, dude, that's a great question, man. I don't know that I could really answer that. I never thought about it. Karen, anybody want to take a shot at that one?
I would say sometimes it's just not cut and dry.
Okay.
Period. There are some things that you definitely won't see in the film that is, I guess, quote unquote, super worldly, at least as far, and language and sex and such.
Yeah.
But and for the most part, in a lot of them, there is a reference, or as you were saying, Maurice, you see the person or the story going toward the light, going toward God, going
Yes.
toward.
Yeah.
Well, I think also like I have two seniors that I'm taking care of here at my house, and like on Saturday mornings we'll tune in to Touched by an Angel because it's on and they love it. But and that's like a pretty obvious. I mean, even though that wasn't, I guess that was somewhat of a secular show, or even Little House on the Prairie. You know, it's kind of like there's an underlying thing. Yeah, like you're saying, leading to the light, redemption, salvation, and I guess when I think of faith-based movies, I always think that there's a strong message, sometimes too strong, but it's kind of there's a message there where they're trying to encourage people or somehow demonstrate like this is what our faith says. This is where you can find your redemption, forgiveness, whatever the very big message. So when I think of faith-based movies, I think of the messaging, and there are some. I mean, I got to check out Vindication because that sounds amazing, and the idea. I always like with what Anthony does, and what War Room did. I think when it's an entertaining thing, and there are worldly maybe things going on, without hammering, a preaching message. But I always think of faith-based as having, let alone not just the people behind it, wanting to minister to people, but also the whole thing. Somehow when you're done with it, you definitely get a message. That's the difference, I think. But I'm trying to think of an example, but I know there are some movies out there that are not necessarily labeled that, but kind of have that same result, and that's a beautiful thing when that does happen.
Go ahead, Sharonne.
Yeah. So it's funny. I think my definition of, and I guess everybody's definition is different. My faith-based definition is different, which is why I said that, Anthony, before you started picking on me. So for me, because I like to do faith-based and family-oriented and positively oriented productions, right? For me, those are like different categories. So for me, my definition, faith-based is a production that directly points somebody to Christ,
right?
Jesus Christ, for me. And so like Little House on the Prairie, Touched by an Angel, like I love those shows, but for me they just kind of point to like a general kind of good or general God, and so that would be like inspirational for me. So still like projects I would do, but that's how I kind of divide it for myself. So that's why Miracle on Highway 34, I said, has faith elements, because it doesn't necessarily point somebody to Christ, but it does talk, about, God and Christ. So, my definition.
I love it. So we had Jared O'Flaherty. This is the actual creator of Vindication, Jared O'Flaherty. He says, I see some projects as faith-based, others as faith-conscious.
There we go. Boom.
Which is really a great point. It's really a great point, because if you're, we know when we're watching, we've gotten to the point now in in Christendom when it comes to filmmaking, like if we see a film produced by the Irwin brothers, produced by the Kendrick brothers, there are certain people we know, oh, well, it's faith-based film, don't need to hear anymore. All right, let's go see it. Or God's Not Dead, or what. There's certain things that tell you right off the rip that you're going to a faith-based film. But and this is to your question more specifically, which I think is a great question. But what about other types of films that don't fit our cookie cutter perception of what faith-based is? And who are we to say it's not, if it is leading to what Sharonne just said, Christ, but it's not leading to Christ in the way we assume that it should be. And so that it leads to other issues in this industry. It's like, hey, look, we want people to get saved. There are people out there that don't live in a cookie cutter world, and we didn't either before we got saved. So the question is, how do we reach these people with a certain level of reality and realism, as it were, so that they would be drawn into the point we're trying to convey? Because if you're hokey, if you're cheesy, if you're following a certain methodical pattern of what faith-based is, well, you just lost half of a potential audience. Because they don't want you to give them something that's all prettied up, because their situations aren't pretty. So we have to be, and to go back to Jared O'Flaherty, you got to watch Vindication. You just got to watch Vindication, because you're watching that show and you're like, yo, this thing right here is not Blue Bloods.
Yep.
I thought this was Law and Order. You still said this ain't Law and Order. These people are going to the light. And so he does that in a spectacular way, you know, and I think that he's setting the bar really for faith-based content to follow, to go by. It's like, look, we got to be willing to tackle substantive issues, you know, like, you know, human trafficking and my gosh, you know, pedophilia and all these different things. I mean, hard hitting subject matter that's happening to people. And if we're not willing to dive in there and really try to, you know, and those are just examples. I could come up with a bunch of other examples that are pretty difficult. And I think this is the long answer or response to your question, Anthony. But I think the faith-based world needs to get more real with itself in order for people to take us seriously enough to want to invite Christ into their heart.
So I would say, real quick question, Maurice, do you got another color other than red for that banner banner down there? My eyes is hurting like a mug. It feels like it's just so bright. Like it's there. Yeah. Oh.
It feels
like a beige.
It feels like
a beige.
Oh my God.
Aaron, you heard green.
That's better.
Can we go with that one?
That's better. That's better.
Wow. Way to take out a whole minute of the show. Thanks.
I'm sorry. I was trying to pay attention, but my eyes kept shutting. I didn't know what was.
My bad, Anthony. I'm here to please you, man.
I'm just playing with you. I did want to say this real quick. There's two types of faith-based movies. There's two different kinds. And the only difference between the two is the audience. There's the faith-based movie that's specifically for the church, for Christians. And then there's the faith-based movie that's having an attempt to get Christians to teach, to lead people to Christ. Christians don't need to be led to Christ. We're already there.
Yeah.
They need to be reinforced in their relationship. So there's movies that are for the Christian audience to reinforce the relationship, where it's almost like we're preaching to the choir, but sometimes the choir needs preaching to, because they got issues, you know, they know God, they love God, but they messed up in the choir. It is what it is. Everybody been in a choir. Right. Everybody don't get along all the time. So there's movies for the choir. But then there's the faith-based films that are not for the choir. They're for the world, to introduce this loving Jesus to them, to introduce the relationship with God that they never knew.
Yes.
Those two type of faith-based films have to be different. The issue that faith-based community is having is the presentation of these films for the right audience. Yeah. There's too many, like, we struggle with, I want to do a faith-based film, but I want the world to, it's for the world so they can know about God. But the movie's content is really preaching to the choir. It's really, it's too, as Karen Bankhead said, it's too Christian-y. It's like banging their head with this. Now, Christians, I'm okay if you bang me with the Bible. Go ahead. I love that. It's out there hard. And it's fine because it's the word of God. You can hit me with that and it won't bother me. But if you try to get my neighbor who a thug, you know what I'm saying, to watch this movie, or down the street who they ain't know nothing about God, if they're trying to get them to watch that same film, it's not going to hit them the same. They're not even going to watch it. So when a Christian movie is presented or advertised as a faith-based movie, at that moment, as it says faith-based movie, as you said, Maurice, you automatically knock out a huge audience, the audience of non-Christians.
Yes.
Christians want to see Christian movies. Non-Christians could care less. It's that simple. They may watch it, They may stumble on it. They may whatever, but their intent is like, oh, it's a Christian movie. Let me go check this out. No, they're going to go and move on to Marvel or freaking whatever else there is out there, right? Yeah. So I just feel like both faith-based genres are good. We need the films that are for the church, and we need the films that are for the world that have God in it. But we have to do a better job, especially as independent filmmakers. The larger filmmakers are okay. Your Devon Franklins and stuff. They have a different stratosphere over there. Okay, but on the independent level, you're talking about 2 million or less, 500,000 or less, 100,000 or less. You have to be more strategic in how you're presenting your film, because you can mess up your whole world if you don't advertise it correctly and you don't present it right. But both of those are important markets. And last thing, I do want to say, this is another question I have, again, presented to you guys, because when it comes going back to Black people and the diversity of things, do you guys feel that the opportunities for Black people is also dependent upon the amount of melanin you have in your skin?
Wow. That's interesting. Well, let me just respond to that and say that you know what, dude, that's awesome. That's a great question. And unfortunately, it's a factor. In my opinion, it is a factor. You know, I think that when you look at the dark skin nature of a person, you know, I think Skeeta Jenkins alluded to this. We were talking, and he says that the intimidation level and fear that people generally have towards a dark skinned person is greater than all the other derivatives. So it's like it affects how you are perceived. That melanin, it's a problem. And yeah.
What you trying to say, Maurice? What?
Hey, Anthony, wait a minute, dude.
You can't see it no more, okay? There's some people who are darker than others, all right? Melanin is not a problem to all my dark-skinned friends. Forgive my friend Maurice. He made a mistake. His word is wrong.
Yeah, my words did come out right. Let me say it a different way. You know what? You know what I'm saying, Anthony. So the darker you are, the more difficult it is for you to navigate. Not only in the entertainment industry, just in life. Yeah, I would agree with that.
For the business, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Sharonne.
No. Okay, no, go.
From the high yellow contingent, I guess. No, I don't think so, because I think in some instances, I don't know, but I think sometimes, you know, they don't want, because a lot of times, you know, in the breakdown, they'll say ethnically ambiguous or what have you. But when they want, you know, I think if they want black, they want black. And so I don't know that there's like a big, you know, I don't know if people's, that's just my thought, that I don't.
Here's what I mean. So Karen, with that being said, here's the thing. So, and give me your feedback on this, anybody, but when they want black, they want black. I agree. But but for a dark-skinned person, that's all there is, right?
Yeah.
What about when you want ethnically ambiguous? What about when it says no specificity on race? Then even in those situations, the dark-skinned woman, and I would say it's worse for women than it is for men with regard to their skin tone. Yeah. So is it that the opportunities for that dark-skinned woman, in my opinion, from what I've seen, it seems to be harder than it is for one who's not dark-skinned, because people who may be light-skinned, they have more opportunities within film opportunities. Like, for example, Sharonne, she got cast for this Dutch role. I do not see a chocolatey brown, dark-skinned woman playing some Dutch woman role. I don't
mindset.
Yeah, I bet you go.
Yeah, you could.
I could be wrong. That's why. What's your opinion? I don't know. I'm just curious as to what you think.
Yeah. No, finish. Sorry, finish.
I want to hear.
Okay. Yeah. When you first posed the question, Anthony, I started thinking about what I see on TV and what I see in films. And when I go back to my childhood, I would say I definitely didn't see a whole lot of darker skinned Black people. I didn't. I feel like now I see them more. But I think there's definitely a validity to that. I do feel like, for whatever reason, the more melanin, the more challenging it is. But we've grown, at least since I was a child. Because I mean, I could probably count when I was a kid how many darker skinned people I could see. But now, you know, there's numerous. But yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. And yes, I definitely think a dark skinned woman. If I was dark, I would still have the Dutch roll. It's
actually.
I mean, and they're Afro. You know, a lot of Afro Dutch people as well too. So.
Well, you know what? When I was growing up in D.C., they call it joning. You know, when the brothers get together and start making fun of one another, we call it joning up here. Back down in North Carolina, where I'm from, we call it scoling. But at the end of the day, from my remembrance, it was always the dark-skinned dudes within the Black, community, just kidding around and having fun. But the dark-skinned guys always got the brunt of the jokes. They got the worst of the jokes, and it was all in fun, of course. But the reality is, it does make a difference in how you're perceived by society. It's an unfortunate truth, you know what I mean? And it makes it more difficult for you to navigate through life. So, Anthony, the melanin makes a difference. But Karen, Abercrombie, go ahead and respond to that. I didn't know if you wanted to chime in or not. I definitely don't want to take all your time.
No, I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
I really have. I've seen it go both ways. And growing up, I grew up with the spectrum, dark skin, lighter skin, brown skin. So I've seen it be a positive, the dark skin, and I've seen situations where it was a negative. So I've seen it on both sides. I have.
I just praise God for Wesley Snipes coming through in the 90s to make us relevant again. It was just such a blessing. Mm-hmm. Wesley Snipes and Passenger 57. Thank you, sir. We've been on a good run. Like dark skins came, we've been on a good run. We haven't ended yet.
There's a place for chocolate brothers.
Yes.
I think
okay, Karen, calm down. She said, "Oh yes, oh yes."
It's funny. Look, guys, let me ask you this. That was a great question, Anthony. I love it. Getting back to the lack of diversity now, when our white brethren are doing films and so forth, I got to ask you guys this. Because I don't think a lot, especially in the faith-based world, I don't believe, and I definitely don't want to believe that a lot of it is premeditated or intentional. I think it's got a lot to do with tone deafness. It's like you're not really even thinking about that. You're so focused on one track or one line of thought that this issue of making things diverse culturally, doesn't ever enter their mind, or they don't even think that it's really an issue. Oh, this is really not a problem. But I think it comes as a consequence of not even being aware for real that the problem exists, i.e. tone deafness. What do you guys think of that?
I think that's part of it, but another part of it, I think, is just, the percentages. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, how do I say this?
Say it how it is. Say it how it is. Whatever you gotta say. You were saying,
just come on out with it, Sharonne. It's all good.
Okay. Well, I feel like in general, when you write, you generally are writing to what you are used to what you know.
Writing what you know.
So, exactly. So when you're white, it's not like, I don't know that they're intentionally not thinking of us, but they're writing for what they see.
What they know.
Exactly.
I agree.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, and so let me say this. So as a black man who, has seen white filmmakers create films with black roles, and there's been some great ones, again, War Room, and there's been other ones, but one thing that is unfortunate is kind of touched on what you're saying, Sharonne.
Yes, that's Sharonne.
It's just simply that, to what Maurice was saying, an element of tone deafness in that they're writing to what they know, but what they know is not always accurate to truth. And so, if you're not from an African American culture or background and you're writing for one, sometimes as a white person or anyone not black, you may be writing what you know, but what you know is what you saw on TV, what you know is what you see, on the news. What you know is, a black person's a thug and, robbing people and stuff like that. So that's just what you know. And that's not always, obviously, that there's truth to that. But at the same time, if that's all that's being portrayed, then that's portraying a negative experience on this culture of beautiful people. And we in media, especially as filmmakers, myself, I know Karen as a filmmaker, we have the opportunity to be able to present our culture and our people in a more correct light, a beautiful light that I don't think is always being portrayed because of those writers.
Mm-hmm. And it's also like we were talking about, like if the filmmakers were not black people bringing a story, and there are a lot of really entertaining, wonderful movies, but they're about us, but from a white person's perspective, or there's the white savior thing that happens, like their story, but from not different perspectives. So I think it is about, and I think any producer who's ever experienced, if it kind of shows if they have an idea of, black people got to have this life going on because that's how it is for them. Then it's gonna come out, and that is an obstacle. But I think there are plenty and more of us and people who are listening and kind of opening their eyes to see all the different elements and layers and nuances of what we bring. So hopefully there's hope.
I believe that there's definitely hope. And when I responded saying that they're writing what they know, I just meant, say if there's just all white movies with, just all white roles. That's all I meant with that. But
absolutely,
yeah. But as far as writing for people of color, there's so many different stories, and for the most that could be told, or there are black dentists, there are black psychotherapists, there are black heart surgeons, there are black, and not just the gang banging, saggy pants wearing, your word again, thug, So yeah, there's so much, so many stories that we can help to tell because we actually walk in other shoes.
Right.
So many different shoes. Yeah, we do.
Exactly.
Can we just have a moment of silence for Maurice? Like, where did he go? How he just disappeared? Like, Maurice, where are you at?
You gave him such a hard time about that drip.
He is a stereotypical black person. Like when we
go,
we don't even let nobody know. We just leave. It's just out. Maurice, come back. We need you. But I mean, I'll step into his role and present something for you guys. Karen, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I don't want to forget. I need your contact information and Karen's, yours as well, about a project. Sharonne, I've got yours.
Yeah. I got you.
Okay. I just didn't want to forget.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So listen, I did have a question for you guys too. So where is it that, here we are, we kind of talked about the state of Black people within faith-based films and just in the film industry period. But since we're specific on faith-based, where do you think is missing, or where do you think that we can go from here? How can we improve as a community? You may have white people watching right now, and other filmmakers and directors, producers, actors, etc., that they need to hear this. There's white people watching right now that are interested in what we have to say. They want to know. They want to know how can things be better? What can we do to contribute? What is your opinion or thought on what we as an entertainment business and faith-based community can do to improve the diversity within faith-based films? What needs to happen?
Bottom line is we have to improve the diversity within our lives. So have friends that are different races, like love everybody, and let's just really, partner with other ethnicities so we can all,
making the conscious effort to do that. I know that you have all heard that Sunday is the most segregated day of the week because everybody, and it's true. It's true. So across the board, if we could come together and do some things together, not only will we learn and our lives be enriched, but you will see how, even though we come from different places, how alike we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Karen Bankhead?
Yes, I think. Well, I'm just trying to see. Look at the beautiful sunlight on you.
I love it.
I was getting distracted by
Karen.
Anyway, no,
about as bad as Anthony.
I know. And Anthony, I think he gets the award for hand gestures in this meeting because you are so expressive. Appreciate it. Anyway, I think that actually collaboration. I mean, there's so many. All of us. Most actors now, we write our own, we know how to write or we want to write. So I think some of the people that might be interested in producing different stories, if you team up with a person of color who's got a story and let them lead, let them tell the story, and then you add to it and finance it, that's wonderful. And I think also, it's kind of what's happening in the church right now. I think all of our eyes are being opened in that white people that we want to call our brothers and sisters. We want to know where are we? How do we stay together as children of God? And we are living different experiences. And so people have to really hear that and understand that just because you might have a whole bunch of white friends, Black friends, you might even be related to some Black people, but still the core of our experience and how we see things, there's an enlightenment. So I think just keep on opening up the world and live your world, live in the world, and understand that everything that's on the surface, we might not all be screaming "we shall overcome" and crying all the time, but we do have things inside that you may not ever have seen. Even during Black History Month, I look at my parents, and sometimes you just sit with what they lived through and realize that it's a whole nother experience. And there's lots of stories. So just keep telling stories and listening.
Yeah. I want to, that collaboration thing is so important too, Karen, what you just said. So like when writers, because Anthony, you mentioned like writers might be listening or whatever. So when you're writing something and when you're having your read through, you just, maybe have some diversity, at the table so you can get different eyes on that. That's a very, very good point. And when I say diversity, I'm not just saying Black. I'm saying Hispanic, Native Americans. I honestly feel like out of the different races, we are probably the most well represented, because I feel like Hispanics. I mean, they're 18% of the population. I don't see 18% of them on TV. You know what I mean? Like Native Americans, rarely see them. Asians, I see them, but not. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
I think again, I always go back to history, man, and I think history has something to do with that too, because historically speaking, Black people, we're entertainers, and it was due to being forced to be entertainers.
Amen.
So,
that's a good point.
Because historically we come from an entertainment culture, and we've always been bred and breeded to entertain. Entertain. But obviously over the course of time, we were able to take ownership of that entertainment and not just be used as entertainers, but to have the choice to be able to entertain. But it's just bred in us, in our country at least, for us to be entertainers. So I think that's one reason why you see obviously a lot more. That. All right, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to give Maurice just a couple more minutes to get on. If he don't, we are going to wrap up in a minute. But I did want to invite anyone who is watching, if you have a question real quick over the next 5 to 7 minutes or so, I will gladly be able to check out your question and ask it to the panel here. So if you have a question, just drop that right now in the comment section if you wouldn't mind. And as they are preparing their question, I also want to say before we close, I want to give each of you an opportunity to just kind of share anything that you have coming up, a special project or a book, a movie, or whatever it is you got coming up. We're going to give you a chance to talk about that too. But lastly, I just want to present one last question for you guys before we get into if they have any questions. And that's this. This is about the lack of diversity in faith-based films, and we talked a lot about the diversity and cultural aspect of things, but I just want to bring God back because he's obviously the most important piece of this whole puzzle. And for me, what is it that in your relationship with God and everything, what is it that you want our world? I mentioned before that they're preaching to the choir movies, and then there's the preaching to the world movies, or sharing God with the world movies. I'm not sure who your audience is for your own self, or at least majority speaking, but what does God have on your heart, I guess, right now today, to be able to say to people who are watching now, whether it's a woman, whether it's a Black woman, whether it's a filmmaker, but someone specific that you may be speaking to, or something going on in your life right now spiritually that God has been tugging on you about and giving you an opportunity right now to share. What is something that you want to share with regard to whoever it is that you're speaking to, that God is speaking to you to tell them?
I would just say that everybody is here with a purpose, and I don't believe that anyone who is watching this right now is here by chance. This is an opportunity for you to open up and to take in some very, very important information, and to know that whatever your struggle might be right now, getting your project seen, getting into projects, God sees you. He is watching, and just keep your eyes, your focus on him no matter what. We have an opportunity today. We've seen some crazy in 2020, not only COVID, but other things. This is an opportunity for us to come together to really help, to really step up and step out and do good with what you have been given. And part of your purpose is to do just that, to make this a better world, not just for your family or your neighbor, but for everybody. And maybe it's just a time to just stop and ask God to direct you. If you're off course, ask him to sink deeper into you so you can better hear him, better understand him, better be who he has purposed you here to be. You have great value. You are here for such a time as right now. And even in this gathering right here, you are here for such a time as right now. It's 3:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you are here right now, to maybe be woken up. Perhaps you have not been conscious. Perhaps you've just been walking through come day, go day. But if you just allow the truth, love, light, goodness to take its place, fill that space inside you, today will be much more than you thought it would ever be. And you'll recognize things you had that have been right before you that you hadn't been able to see until right now. So open up. Say yes. Take that chance.
All right, Miss Clara. Okay, hold on. Where my war room at?
Oh, goodness. Really?
Yo, oh my goodness. Sharonne.
Been on here for more than an hour. Still.
I'm just playing with you. You're up, please. What's God been speaking to you about?
You know, just the importance of keeping him first.
Yes.
And whether we're on like secular film sets, faith-based film sets, wherever, just keeping him first in our lives. With regards to entertainment, a statement that just sticks at the front of my head. I can't get it out, and I guess I'm not supposed to. But Anton LaVey, who is the founder of the Church of Satan, he said, television is the major mainstream infiltration for the new satanic religion. And so I hate that statement, but it's true for the most part. Like when we watch television, we're just all kind of being led down this horrible path. So I'm so grateful, you know, to those of us who are committed to reversing that statement, and all that. As long as we keep God first, we can definitely do that. Like television can be the major mainstream infiltration for hope, the major mainstream infiltration for the name of Jesus Christ to be famous, you know. And so, I don't know. That's just, we need to keep God first and go.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. So, well, I think, you know, I agree with what my ladies have said. And I think, like I think Gladys Knight used to saying, get right down to the real nitty gritty. I think that because with what's going on, I think it's Matthew 25, basically, what are you doing in your life as far as not, you know, like one of my mentors just said, rather see a sermon than hear it, as in, how are you walking?
Yes.
And when you're talking about faith-based movies and the difference between like hitting somebody over the head or showing them, and it's kind of like when you got somebody on the street corner with a megaphone and a track and saying, "Want right now," or as opposed to you being a person who's looking after your neighbor or feeding somebody who you know needs some money or food or whatever. And I think as artists in this time with this pandemic, and I felt really convicted to say, what do I do? And it's like, if I can make people laugh, even if I only have, you know, so many 100 followers or whatever, I'm going to keep putting out what I do on a small scale or whatever, just because it's what I have. And it means something. I think as artists, you know, wherever we are, like Sharonne said, if you're on a set, you may not be the big one or whatever, but how you walk and how you live, people will remember you for that, not necessarily what your lines were. So I think we all have a purpose, and God is wonderful. And I think at this time, some people have been derailed, you know, with our whatever Christianity means to certain people. I think we need to be showing the heart of the matter.
Yes.
Hey guys, how are you?
Well, hello, stranger.
You can't be coming up on here talking about hello, God. We need an explanation right now.
Oh,
where your black behind has been at for the past 34 minutes.
We're crying out.
Man, this is, guys, my internet just dipped out on me.
Wow.
I had no idea how to rectify this, but I apologize. Please, guys, forgive me. I'm so sorry. Wow, this has never happened. This has
It's okay.
never happened to me before.
Well, Anthony was your ram in the bush. He came through.
Yes, he did.
Well, listen, and God, Anthony, man, thank you, dude. Man, oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. This has just never happened, and I'm a flat out computer dummy. It's amazing that I'm even able to do a show. It was my kids that really put me on, and my son, he's at work right now, so I'm like, son, and so it's anyway.
I honestly can't believe Anthony asked you what happened, because it could have been like so private, Anthony. Like, what if he had to run to the restroom, and you just put him on blast? Like, wow.
If he had to run to the bathroom, I mean, he deserved to be put on blast, okay? But I can tell, it's clear we knew something happened. You just cut out on us, so it's all good, man. We're glad to have you back.
Man, I appreciate you guys hanging in there, man. I was all over the place trying to get back, and then I saw that you were still holding it down. So, oh man, Anthony's keeping it going, and thank God, man. Awesome, but you're the man, Anthony. You are the man, dude.
Man, I appreciate you, Maurice. You my guy, man. I'll do anything for you, bro.
Man, oh man. Well, guys, I don't even remember. Well, so what are we discussing? I want to be Anthony. You run the show, man.
We're done.
We was wrapping up. I mean, you can't be coming up in here talking about, all right, let's go. No, bro, we waiting for you to wrap us up. That's what we're waiting on right now. And we're gonna
watch the replay.
Not to cut out. If you using Boost Hotspot, you need to upgrade. Okay. Verizon got a good plan. You can check them out.
Oh man, it's terrible, dude. I'm gonna have to upgrade. This Boost internet's killing me. Okay, so here we go, guys. We're gonna wrap it up. It was a great conversation. I hate that I missed whatever I missed. I'm sure it was juicy and awesome and substantive. But
Maurice,
yeah,
really,
guys, there's many more things.
Maurice, really quick. I apologize. If you would allow me, I just wanted to say we were all just sharing just kind of what God has put on our heart this week. And I just wanted to share with everybody really quickly what God has been speaking to me about, if that's okay.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Absolutely. Thank you. So there's a verse that I've been stuck on for the past like 2 weeks. It's Proverbs 27, I believe 27:20. It says, death and destruction. Hold up. Death and destruction. Hold up. There you go. Death and destruction are never satisfied, neither are human eyes. And that's been stuck on me all week, because it's basically just simply saying that we as humans, we're never satisfied. We're always looking for the next thing. We're always looking for an upgrade to our car, or another house, or this or that, and this or that, a new person in my life. We're always looking for an upgrade or something different, and we're never really satisfied. And that's been on my spirit a lot, because a lot of people during this pandemic, all we're doing is we're at home, and we're looking at everybody on Facebook or on Instagram, and we're looking at Sharonne and she's in a dope movie. She's playing Rosa Parks. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? Karen Abercrombie. Oh, she dropping movies on Pureflix. Oh snap. What am I gonna do? I'm trying to get in the game. Karen Bankhead, she's over here looking fly with the sun beaming on her face and stuff. My and everything. I need to step my game up. Maurice is doing a show every freaking week, and I'm not doing nothing with my life. We're always looking around us, and we're never satisfied. And God is just basically telling me, look, Anthony, walk in your calling that I put you in, and be satisfied with that.
Oh,
amen. Amen.
Because if we're not content with what God has given us right in front of our face, it's like smacking him in the face. And if we smack God in the face, guess what? He'll take it, but he'll take the smack, but he also might take away everything else that he has for you. So I just want to encourage everybody.
Good stuff.
Be at peace. Be at peace with what God has in front of you in your life. Be at peace with what God has for you, because it's for you. Don't be unsatisfied or uncontent by looking at everybody else. Just know that theirs is theirs, and what God has for you is for you. And I just want to share it with you guys today.
Beautiful.
Amen. Timely words, Anthony. Timely words in a time where we're all uncertain, unsure about the future and what does God have for us next. But if we have faith, to piggyback on what you just said, it's going to be all good. We just have to sit back and trust him. Before we get out of here, any words of advice for young, aspiring entertainers that want to make this a career, this business their career? Any advice that you could give young people?
I would say just train to be the best that you can be. Excellence, because for me, every time I go before a camera or on a stage, it's worship. I might be doing somebody else's words or in a situation that someone has written, but it's between me and God first. So excellence, train, and don't take roles that cause you to compromise your beliefs.
Amen.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Sharonne?
Yeah, I would say don't give up. I get a lot of questions, I guess, or I don't know if they're questions, but I hear people's hearts, and then it's basically like, why is it not happening now? I've done this, for so long. I mean, yeah. I've been there, done that. Don't stop. When God has put a passion and a desire in your heart, he put it in there for a reason. So don't stop. That's my advice. Keep going. When you know that it's from God, don't you dare stop.
There you go, Sharonne. I love it. I love it. Karen Bankhead.
Yes, and all of that. And I would just say, know yourself, know your worth, just and leave space for God, because I don't think anybody's had a plan. People will say, oh, I saw it and I knew I was going to do this. I don't know that anybody's career is really unfolded in a way that they could have seen, but there's a lot of magical moments where it's like the last thing you would have thought that this show you're in is going to be a hit, or this play that you took is going to lead you to this other great thing, but God knows. So whatever you're doing, like she said, just excellence, don't compromise, keep your eyes on the prize, and just trust the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, a parting shot on your part, although you had some really, really good stuff there you just shared with us. Any maybe one more thing for young people?
I mean, yeah, for the actors, it's really a combination of the Karens of what they said. The first part is just acknowledging God and making sure that God is number one. I mean, let God, more than number one, that God is your only one. When you're zoned in and you stayed into God, it's a guarantee he'll take care of you. It's a guarantee. Like, when you step into a casting room, forget them. They're not casting you. God is. Okay.
There you go.
When someone's writing a movie, they're writing a role for you because God is telling them to write for you. So make sure you're tucked in with God. And I think that's the biggest piece. But the second piece to that is what the other Karen was talking about, and that's training. There's an actor I got a chance to work with named Mahershala Ali, and I worked with him on House of Cards. And once he told me one day, we were walking back to his van, and he was like, "You know how to be successful?" And I was like, "Tell me, brother, how to be successful?" And he was like, he said, "Just work your acting muscle." And it was crazy coming from him, because I don't know if anyone has ever seen him in real life, but he's a strong dude. He's like really tall and really strong. And when he said work your acting muscle, he was like, when you're working out and you're working your muscle, you're working, all you're doing is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So he said, it doesn't matter what the role is. I mean, with regard to what you're comfortable doing, but take roles, act. I don't care if it's a church play. I don't care if it's in front of your mirror. I don't care if it's a movie or a TV show or a commercial. Just keep acting and acting and acting and working that muscle, because the more you work it, the stronger you are. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to come at the right time for the right opportunity. And because you've been working out for so long, you're going to be ready for that opportunity. You're going to be strong, and you're going to be great at what you do. So just keep working that acting muscle, actors out there. Keep acting whatever you can get a hold of that's within your range of what you feel comfortable doing. And from there, let God take over.
Mm-hmm.
I could not agree with you more on that. And particularly when you're talking about comedy, for example, as a stand-up comic, you write, perform. You get to a point, guys, I can tell you, I don't know how many times I've gotten on stage 10 seconds before I grab the mic. I say, how am I going to remember all this? And then I grab the microphone, and it's off to the races, and I don't forget anything. It's because I put the work in already. I didn't even trust the fact that I was ready, but the fact that I prepared, the proof's in the pudding.
Yep.
And then you look at yourself on video. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I've looked at, my video performances, and I tell my wife, I go, that's not me. I'm so composed. I'm in such great control. I do not look like I feel like I'm like a basket case the way I'm feeling, but I've practiced so hard that it's seamless every time. And it's amazing. It amazes me. But that's just to piggyback on what you just said, Anthony. It's about practice, practice, practice. Work on that muscle, and it's going to show itself. Karen Abercrombie, how can fans follow you on social media or by website?
They can find me on Instagram at Abercrombie here. Website is KarenAbercrombie.com.
Sharonne Lanier.
Yes. Facebook is Sharonne Lanier. Well, my acting page is actually Sharonne Lanier, the actress. Instagram is Sharonne Lanier. Website, SharonneLanier.com. So original.
Okay.
How do you spell the last name?
Oh, yes. Lanier. Like Lake Lanier. Lanier.
Awesome. Awesome. Karen Bankhead.
Yes, I am here. I am on TikTok with my girls. We do this hashtag Stay at Home Choir, which is a lot of fun. So just hashtag Stay at Home Choir. We're on TikTok as Edamay TV, which is ETTAMAE TV. I'm Edamay Mumford on Facebook, Edamay TV on Instagram, and just please look at our videos. It's all silly. It's all good. We're having fun. And I'm on YouTube, Edamay TV as well.
Love it. Love it. And finally, Anthony Hackett.
So real quick, I know this really has nothing to do with me, but go ahead and follow my wife on YouTube. She's dope, you guys. Her YouTube channel is Donna the PA. She's a physician assistant. And if you're looking to get into PA school, she's the one for you. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and check her out. Donna the PA. As for me, you can just catch me on sunsetfriday.com. It's spelled SON, like the Son of God, sunsetfriday.com. And you get everything from there.
Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you to all of you guys for being on the show and diving into this subject, the lack of diversity in faith-based films. Karen Abercrombie, Sharonne Lanier, Karen Bankhead, and Anthony Hackett on the Maurice Brown Show. If you like this video, like and share and subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy Hour on YouTube. Check it out. And also later on this evening, you can see the replay. Even when I leave and come back, you can see it tonight on Roku TV on the Creative Motion Network. God bless you guys so much. May the peace of Christ be with you and your families, everybody. Thank you and God bless.
Bye.